Okay, so today I want to do a small open source contribution to the Digger open source project. This is not going to be related to the Git support that we're adding. I mean, it's kind of related in a way, but not directly. This was just something I found while I was going through the code, and I asked the folks at Digger over in their Slack what they thought of it. And it was generally agreed that this change should be made. So I went ahead and opened a GitHub issue that I am going to go ahead and produce a pull request for and handle myself. Um, this is showing a bunch of different kinds of ways you can contribute. So the first thing I want to show is if you find an issue in a piece of open source software that you're using, you can generally go to their issues in GitHub. And you can go and make a new issue and click the green button on the right side, and you'll be able to just kind of type in what's going on. This specific description is a reflection of my understanding of Digger and how it works, and my new understanding of the Go language and how it works, and kind of understanding how this should be. But really, this isn't like you're not expected to include a code sample or anything. Like, just as a user of the open source project, describe the problem that you're having, and then be open to the fact that maybe it's not a problem. Maybe it's something that's by design and you just don't like it, or maybe it's something where you don't completely understand how it's supposed to be used, or one of these sorts of things. But this ends up being sort of a threaded conversation back and forth. In this case, since I'd already talked to the folks in Slack, and they and several other people, the maintainers and several other people, had agreed that this was something that needed to be done, I was including this mostly for completeness because I wanted to show a complete example of how you go about contributing to open source. Um, Realistically, they probably would have accepted my pull request just based off the conversation we had in Slack, but this allows me to showcase a little bit more of the process that you can go through and the different ways in which you can contribute to an open source project. You can contribute literally just by being a user and saying, hey, I found this thing and it doesn't look right. And that can lead to a lot of different outcomes. It can lead to documentation being created to avoid confusion for folks in the future. It could be, a video being created about how to use the feature or the complexities and intercomplexities of the feature. And it could also result in a code change, which is pretty cool. All right, so we have this. I'm just going to remember this 768 number that is the issue number, just so that I can, have that for later. I'm actually going to put that on my other screen. And let's get right into it. So I've got a couple of different things in the code. I am going to go ahead and split my window right so we can look at two of these at the same time. So if I do a find on recover, I will see 4 instances. I'll see this one, which is in the GitLab one here. So this is one of the instances. I'm actually going to go ahead and open a Scratchpad so I can grab all of these. New Scratch file, plain text. Perfect. All right, cool. Like these indentations and whatnot. So that is the GitHub one. So GitHub. This is the GitLab one. You can see there's some inconsistencies in how these look and are implemented because they were just added by different folks at different times. It's not really criticism, it's just consistency is good in software. So this is the Azure one. And in fact, the way I actually entered the bug, because until I was just going through and doing this now, I didn't even realize these were here because they looked so different. You might remember from the streaming video when I was going through working on my Git support. I was able to see the one for Bitbucket, and I was able to see the one for GitHub, because as we're about to note here when I paste this in, so here's Bitbucket. These are very similarly structured and have very similar notes. And then you look at the GitLab one and the Azure one, they're very different. So I think what has happened is, if I had to guess, I would say that Bitbucket was built off of GitHub, which, as you all know, I'm building my Git support off of the Bitbucket support. So Bitbucket was built off of GitHub, would be my guess. And then Azure was built off of GitLab, or vice versa. So that would be my suspicion, because this is all basically very similar handling. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go ahead and move this all up into the actual main. And to do that, we've got to look at how these are all structured. And let's take a look. So these have a little bit of knowledge of which kind of CI we're dealing with. So they have the GitHub actor here. This has the project name is included. This one has the Azure context. So let's look at what each of those things means real quick. So the actor is relatively easy. It's a get inv that comes in from the environment. So that's just a string. It's kind of a leader string on the error log. And let's see, is there anything else in here that's not self-contained? No, that all looks pretty self-contained. So let's go on to the next one. And let's look at, let's look at here. So the project name coming up here, and this is interesting because they've got it pretty much installed at the end. So the project name is another environment variable. So that'll be pretty easy. So let's go ahead and start doing this. I'm just going to add a little bit of extra info. So that tells me that that's the project name. And let's go all the way up to the GitHub one. And this shows me what the GitHub actor is. So we can kind of see what each of these environment variables actually is. And let's see, on the Azure one, it looks like it's going to be parsing a URL, so that's kind of interesting. So let's jump down and have a look at the Azure one, which is here. So parsed Azure context is coming from, it's coming from this, and that's based off of, okay, so here's what we can do. Let's take this, gives us this. Let's just look at here. And this is the Azure context, which is here. So that gives us everything and kind of gets us back to that brass tacks. And this one is another simple environment variable. All right, cool. So now let's go down to where we know what our CIs are, and we can start writing a little bit of code. So the very first thing that we're going to need is we're going to need to be in here. We want to do this before we call any of these methods so that they have the coverage. I think the defers get installed. So it's not, I've got to look this up in Go, but I'm pretty sure that the defers get installed regardless of where you call them, or regardless of where you set them up, because my belief is, since it is a compiled language, it has the opportunity to look up what those are and where they should be. So we'll do that. But I just kind of like the structure of, you're reading through the main and you're like, oh, okay, cool, that gets installed there. That makes sense. Do my thing. So we are going to duplicate this switch, and we'll see. This is the thing, doing pull requests is a give and take kind of situation. Throughout that process, you are going to kind of collaborate with other people who are going to provide comments on the pull request and input and be like, hey, I don't like this, I do like that, and so forth. And the end result is that the software, the code that you're writing gets better through that collaboration. So what I'm going to do is I am going to grab let's just go ahead and grab this. We're going to install this defer here. And the only thing it doesn't know what to do is with this GitHub actor. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to name that something a little better, like log leader. And we're going to make the log leader be something. And let's put unknown CI as the default. Then we don't need to have the digger none case. All right. Now we can look at this in terms of doing one of these. We can go over here and say, hey, for GitHub, the log leader should be the GitHub actor. And it says it's not used, but oh, it's context hidden. So what I need to do, I'm trying to remember, what is this? It's let colon string. Is that the right syntax, or is it var? Might be var. It is var. And what is that about here? Oh, okay, that's fine. Then I want to set this to that. Okay, good. Now I've upgraded that to that level. All right, so that's cool. That was easy. Let's do the GitLab one. I'm actually going to go ahead and copy this line and then do this here, like so. And that will be that one. And then Azure is going to be the most interesting of these. So let's actually grab this bit here, which I can't quite get to. There we go. A little bit of a mouse issue. And then, so this is going to be the, let's see, it's a log leader, Azure context base URL. So this will be like so. And error is unused. So we can just do that. And then we'll come down here, and this last one is going to be the most like those. So we've got all of our different patterns. We've got our panic installed. We're all set there. That looks pretty good. I don't really see any problems with that. So that's pretty sweet. Then we'll go to the top. We're going to go ahead and delete this. And then let's go to the next one. We're going to go ahead and delete this one. And we're going to go ahead and go down to the next one. And we will delete that. And we'll go down here. And we will delete this. Leaving us with just our one result. All right. Now, it's entirely plausible we can consolidate these two switches. I believe that to be the case. I am going to actually look that up really quick because I kind of like that idea. So let's see here. Go, lang, panic, recovery, manual. Let's look at this. So bring this down here so y'all can read it with me. All right. Go has the usual mechanisms of control flow, defer statement. All right, and defer statements allow us to think about closing each file. Behavior of defer statements is straightforward and predictable. There are three simple rules. The deferred function's arguments are evaluated when the defer statement is evaluated. In this example, expression I is evaluated when the print line call is defined. So defer, oh, it's when the print line call is deferred. Okay, so when this gets deferred, that's when it's evaluated. Deferred function calls are executed in a last in, first out order. Okay, so it's a stack, LIFO stack. All right. And this function prints. Okay, so from what I'm reading here, I believe we can consolidate these if statements, or sorry, these switch statements, and I think that is a better way to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this down here. I'm going to move this into here for each one of these. And then that means that when people modify this switch and add their CIs to the switch and add support for a CI, they're going to see that all the other ones do this. This is a little more ergonomic. And then they're just like, oh, I just add that. Okay, I do this. All right, that makes perfect sense. And away we go. And then we have our one nicely cleaned up recover call. And I think we are all set. All right. Very cool. Okay, so let's go ahead. For the purposes of this video, I'm not going to go through and do a build and a test because honestly, like this is like I know it builds because it's Goland, and I'm just looking here to see if there's an easy way to run tests, and I'm not seeing it necessarily. So I'm going to assume that when I open the pull request, it could end up failing back on me or saying, there's a test issue or something like that. I also don't see a linter to run in this particular project. But I noticed like Goland doesn't seem to be making significant changes from what I'm doing. So I have two get remotes in here. Get remote -v. One is the origin, that's my branch of Digger, and two is the upstream, that is the actual Digger project. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a git checkout -b, and I'm going to make a branch for issue 768. So the way that I kind of always go about doing branch names is I do who I am, Jackson 79 / issue -768, and then I have a new branch. It's that, and I'm looking at what I'm going to include. I'm going to get add dot, because if I include everything, that's what I want. Git commit. Now I only did one of these, so I don't have to squash because there's only going to be one commit in this branch. But later, as I build through this, if I end up, in the pull request process, them saying, hey, like, you should change this, and you should change that, and you should change this, and you should change that, then I may have to come back and rebase, and I will shoot videos as I have to make those changes as we go through this process. All right, so I am just going to include the issue link in my commit description. So fix for, and I'm going to paste the issue link in here. And I'm going to git push origin, this branch name. There we go. And it creates this. So I'm going to go ahead. All right, so I have no merge conflicts. I am making a pull request into the develop branch on the base repository. It's coming from there on that branch. And I'm just going to put a description of what I did. And let's see. Boop, 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 boop. Create pull request. And it's doing its check. It says there's no conflicts with the branch. Oh, that's interesting. It doesn't look like there is an automated builder. So I will have to ask about that and see if there is a series of local tests that they would like for me to run or proofs that I'm supposed to include. And if there are, then we'll pick that up in another video. But that is basically the process of creating a pull request against an open source project. That's kind of the fast-paced version. The things I didn't include in this video are, one, forking the project into your own repository on GitHub. Two, creating that, adding that extra Git remote for the upstream. And the main reason for that is so that you can pull from upstream into origin and then upmerge origin so that you constantly keep your fork up to date. So you're always building from whatever the current is. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching. Pretty short video. It's only about 23 minutes and, well, raw. Probably going to cut down a little bit from that. And thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.